Welcome to Devotions from Israel, a 5-minute word of encouragement. Today's devotion comes from Joshua chapters 8 and 24. One of my favorite leaders in the entire Bible is a guy named Joshua, the son of Nun. Now, prior to Moses' death on Mount Nebo, as mentioned in Deuteronomy 34, he handed the leadership baton to this guy named Joshua, who, by the way, was with him on Mount Sinai, at least part of the way up, as Moses received the Ten Commandments. Joshua had a first-row view of how God spoke to people, to leaders, and how God led leaders like Moses. But now it was Joshua's turn to take over. So he led his people, the Israelites, across the Jordan River on dry ground. They attacked the city of Jericho. The walls came tumbling there. Then they took the city of Ai, as mentioned in Joshua 7 and 8, and then the city of Lachish and other Canaanite cities, Joshua 10, Hatzor, as mentioned in Joshua 11, and a total of 31 cities, as Joshua would write the list in chapter 12. But at the end of chapter 8 is what I want to focus on today, as we talk about Joshua's spiritual role as a leader. Not only was he a great military conqueror of Canaanite cities, taking these cities and claiming the land as promised by God to Abraham hundreds of years before, but Joshua was instrumental in renewing the covenant with God. In chapter 8, this is where Joshua would go. In fact, on a recent Israel trip, I had the chance to drive up Mount Ebal on the one side of the city called Shechem. Incidentally, on the other side of this ancient city, located in the valley below, is another mountain called Mount Gerizim. But Mount Ebal is where an altar was discovered. Now, in our pursuit to find this altar, we were not successful because I believe the altar was within a fenced-off area, within a military area controlled by the Israeli army. So I don't believe we were able to actually see what is proposed to be the altar built by Joshua. But we came across other very similar stone structures. Regardless, this is what Joshua did. He built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it in accordance to what was written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stone. And on it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrificed fellowship offerings. And there, in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua wrote on stones a copy of the law of Moses. And all the Israelites, with their elders, officials, and judges, were standing on both sides of the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. Basically, what they were doing was renewing the covenant of obedience with God. This is chapter 8 in the midst of the military campaign against Canaanite cities. And yet what's so encouraging to me is what happened at the end of his life. Joshua is probably about 110 now, and as recorded in chapter 24, he again brings his people up to the area of Shechem. And this was a place where, if you look up to the one side, there's Mount Ebal, where previously an altar was built, and on the other side was Mount Gerizim. Well, this is what Joshua did, as recorded in chapter 24. As he was facing his own death, on that day, Joshua made a covenant for the people, and there at Shechem he reaffirmed for them the decrees and laws. And Joshua recorded these things in the book of the law of God. And then he took a large stone and set it up there under the oak near the holy place of the Lord. Joshua was instrumental in leading his people to a renewal of the covenant with God. Much more important than conquering cities was the commitment of their hearts to the ways of God. We ourselves find encouragement when we yield and commit our lives to the ways of God. When we commit ourselves, our hearts, when we set our minds on serving and pleasing Him, that's when God will bless us richly. So be encouraged with the example that Joshua offers us in these passages. A great military leader, and yet also a great spiritual leader who inspired his people to obey God. May you be inspired as well as we together commit our lives to God. Be encouraged today. Until next time, Shalom.